Hey guys, today I will be giving you all kinds of tips and tricks on how to master the grocery store so that way you can eat a healthy lifestyle that's not gonna break your bank. So first things first, we're gonna go into 10 different tips, but before you ever change your diet, you should always discuss it with your primary care physician and a dietitian to make sure that these options are best for your health specifically. Remember, everyone is different, so be sure to discuss these changes with your doctor before making any of them. So let's dive on into it. Number one, and this is the most important tip if you take anything away from this video that I can recommend, and that is making sure you eat before you go to the grocery store, right? If you're hungry and you're craving foods, you're gonna wanna pick up something fast and normally something unhealthy. And a lot of times fast is a lot related to unhealthy, but if you have food in you and you're well fed and you're focusing on eating for purpose and not pleasure, you'll be able to stick to your plan much more efficiently. So, number two, that comes into the list and that goes to coming up with a plan, right? You wanna have something pre-written out. Now you don't have to necessarily write every single thing down, although the more you write, the easier it's gonna be to follow. But you also don't wanna plan for more than 4 to 5 days at most. And that goes regardless on you meal prepping or if you're cooking those meals each day as you go. You never wanna do more than 4 or 5 days because you're not gonna stick with it, right? If you're eating the same food consistently or you've planned too many days, you're not gonna have as good and fresh produce. You're not gonna be able to stick to it. And again, you're probably gonna be like, oh, I don't really feel like cooking that today. So you're more inclined to push those healthier foods to the end and eat something you wanna enjoy more in the middle of the week, in the beginning of the week. And it's gonna be harder to stick to that plan. Tip number 3, follow the outside lanes of the grocery stores, right? Those are your primary foods. If you think about it, they're all designed so that the produce are normally on the sides, the proteins and meats are on the ends. And again, all the snack foods, the junk foods, all that stuff will be in the middle rows. So if you focus on sticking to the primary outsides of it and then picking through the aisles when you're done, you're better off at getting the stuff you need and less additives as you go. Tip number 4, start with the produce and then go to the protein. A great source of information for you to look at is myplate.gov. It is the government's webpage on how to design your plans. And the number one thing it starts with is 2/3 of that plate should be filled with fruits and veggies. So if you're starting with that produce, you're focused on that build as you go. Get all your fruits, your veggies, and go from there. And then go to your proteins, and then you can build your plan around the additives and extras that you put into it. Next tip. Good, better, best, right? So you have good options, you have better options, and you have the best options, right? A great example of that will be breads, right? Bad options, again, your white bread, your enriched breads, that sugary bread. There's better options, honey bread, whole wheat, and there's the best options, that whole grain, that extra fiber. There's all kinds of options. So remember, you don't necessarily always have to do all the way to the best, but there are always better options than the bad options too. So figure a way to kind of work your way into what works with you and something that you'll eat, but something that's gonna be good for your diet as well. Step number 6, avoid sugar like the plague. Sugar has so many negative connotations to it. Some sugars are good, however, when things have been added to it, it's gonna spike your insulin, lead to fat buildup, and lead to diseases such as diabetes and heart failure, stuff you don't wanna do. And especially in American diets, you're gonna find these things chocked full of them, right? A big tip, stay away from things that say reduced fat, or not necessarily stay away from them, but read the back of it. In order to make it taste better, they sell it as being this healthier food that's reduced in fat, but sometimes they chock it full of sugar to make it taste a little bit better. And again, that's not necessarily a good thing, so you wanna be careful about the amount of sugar when it comes to things. That goes back to that bread talk again as well. Avoid sugar like the plague. Step number 7, don't buy, you won't eat it. So if you buy a bunch of junk food and you have chips laying around the house, you're probably gonna eat it. But if you have healthier snacks and options that are in front of you, you're more likely to eat those food items. Again, reach for the apple instead of reach for the bag of chips, right? When you're looking at the two and you're hungry and you want something fast, you're thinking about those unhealthy foods that are gonna taste much better, right? But if they're not there in front of you, it's harder to get. And if you do go get it, at least you have to take that extra step to go out and make that extra purchase. Tip number 8, find substitutes that work with you. So if you are a chip fanatic, right? One of the best substitutes that I give a lot of my clients is wheat thins, or you can do Triscuits or even whole wheat thins with maybe hummus. And the hummus can be made different ways. So one of my favorites for those of you like nachos and you can't stay away from those chips, you get the tomato basil wheat thins with the taco inspired hummus. You get a little bit of protein and it is much healthier. So find substitutes for those foods that you crave, right? You're a huge chocolate fan. You love to eat Hershey bars. Try maybe getting dark chocolate almonds or maybe those almond nut bars, stuff like that. So you get a little bit of the chocolate without it being necessarily a candy bar or something that's gonna make your diet thrown off from the macronutrients that you want. Tip number 9, buy wholesale, not pre-made. For example, if you're getting your fruit, don't go buy those cups. You can save so much money and get a lot more fruit out of it if you cut it up and you get some of those pre-made containers, get some plastic ones, get some glass ones, cut it up in the week, serving size how you want it, and then when you have a certain amount of portion for it, you spend a little bit of more time doing it, but you save a lot of money and you get a lot more out of it by making it yourself. And then if you have it pre-cut, when it's time to go, all you gotta do is peel it back, eat it, and when you're ready, it's just as fast as doing that pre-made, and half the time they're gonna last much longer. Same thing with cans and stuff. If you buy canned veggies and stuff, a lot of times they're chock full of sodium and preservatives that if you just bought and cooked yourself, you would be saving yourself a lot of those unhealthy things as well. And tip number 10, when and where you go is very important. So what I used to do was I used to love to go to the grocery store on Sunday night because I felt it set my week up. I can do my prepping and get all that done. However, the grocery store is packed on Sunday because everyone has that same mindset. So you're less likely gonna find better produce and it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be a zoo in there and you're gonna be feeling like you're a little bit rushed and you're also gonna have to wait in that line, and that 30 minutes to an hour trip becomes a 2-hour trip in the grocery store. It's gonna stress you out and you're not gonna wanna go 4 or 5 times or go every 4 or 5 days. You're gonna wanna go once a week and get as much as you can, and you're gonna end up throwing away a lot of that food and maybe not eating the most healthiest of those foods as well. So plan the time in the grocery stores and also know your deals, right? I know certain deals like maybe Tuesdays, it's $2.99 for a pound of chicken if you go to a certain store. So I know, well, I'm not gonna buy my produce then, I'm gonna buy everything else. And then I'm gonna go and buy those proteins for a cheaper price. And I know it's hormone-free, cage-free, and it's a good quality meat. So I know those special deals that are offering. So those are the top 10 tips, guys. Check them on out. Remember to follow them through. And for now, we're gonna head to the grocery store and we're gonna talk about a little bit more of these tips in person. And we're gonna look at some of the food items and go through a little bit more in detail. But make sure you guys like and subscribe below. If you like more content, feel free to comment in there. If you have any more suggestions, I'd love to hear from you guys. This is just the top 10 tips for now, and we'll see more to come. If you've followed the tips so far, you have already gone, you've gotten food, you've planned out your meals, and you are ready to roll. So I dove in here, and what I always like to do, again, if you're following the outsides, I often try to start with the produce section, right? So I get my fruits and my veggies first. All right, guys, tip number 2, if you're buying your fruit, don't ever buy those boxed pre-cut ones. 1, they don't last as long, and 2, it's gonna be triple the price versus if you just go ahead and buy your fruit, buy some of those plastic or Pyrex containers, then you can go ahead and cut it up and separate it so it's portion size, and you're more likely to eat it with certain meals, but also you'll save a lot of money rather than if you just go and buy those pre-cut ones. Take a few seconds to prep that and then go ahead and you'll have it for the whole week. So we passed the produce section and we are on to our proteins. I just went ahead and grabbed some of the mahi-mahi for the fish tacos. Again, most of the time you'll find that proteins directly after you get through the produce. So again, when it comes to building, especially a plan, a lot of times with weightlifting and stuff, you want to also focus on that high protein intake. Protein seems to be a lot of the things that people lack when it comes to their diet, especially for that muscle growth. And again, it's just used in so many things from cellular regeneration to just maintaining even the body. So a lot of times I like to plan my meals around that protein and what it's going to be. And of course, fill that with veggies and fruits. And then if I need any extra carbs or stuff, depending on what my goal is at the time, I can kind of plan it around that. So remember, you are what you eat. So you want to get the good foods, the good proteins. Another pro tip for you, by the way, if you are buying a lot of lunch meats, right, deli cut meats, you want to buy that nitrate free. Nitrates are bad, they harden the arteries. So I often get the nitrate, no hormone. The better meats, it goes a little bit longer. Okay guys, big one here, and I see it all the time, is the cereal people eat, right? You want to eat oatmeal or something healthy, Cheerios. A lot of the cereals they sell on the market nowadays are chock full of sugar, and you're really not getting a lot of good intake as far as your diet nutrients. You want to try to avoid those super high sugary foods. So really look at the back of the box and see how much sugar it is. So a big conversation a lot of people always ask is about bread, right? Avoid bread if you're trying to lose weight. Not necessarily. But you can also change the type of bread to make a huge difference. So for example, if you're buying white bread, it means it's been covered in sugar. So anything that says it's been enriched or bleached, it means that added sugar has been put into it. So yes, you're eating sugary bread, and that insulin excess is gonna block your fat and create more fat, right? So carbs are good, it's the type of carbs. So avoid those white breads, maybe go for a whole wheat or a whole grain. If you absolutely can't stand either of those, a good recommendation is honey wheat. It gives you a little bit of that sweetener, and again, honey is known not to be such a giant insulin increaser. It has a low glycemic index. So just like bread, like I was talking about, pasta is the very same concept, right? You can get whole grain, whole wheat pasta, but you can even do substitute from the normal pastas. Like you can do protein pastas made of lentil, made of quinoa. There's a wide variety of options. So if you're an absolute pasta fanatic, you don't only have to go with the standards. Even if you get regular pasta, this whole grain pasta being a little bit better. Here's a great one, red lentil, right? This is what I mean by protein pasta. You don't see, no significant source of added sugar has been put on it. It's got 13 grams of protein, it's gluten-free, it's simply one ingredient, right? So there's a wide variety of better versions of pasta. So another big thing is buying canned vegetables, right? If you buy it fresh, and it'll be much better tasting, but it also won't have all this extra sodium and preservatives in it to make it last longer, so it'll be much healthier for you as well. For everybody out there trying to lose weight or just be healthier in general, let's avoid sodas like the plague, right? Sodas are horrible, right? Anything that has this much sugar chalked into it is horrible, and there'll be a lesson about this later. Stay tuned on it. I recommend watching it. It's about hyperinsulinemia and its effect on fat use, as well as increased risk for diabetes and heart disease, okay? Now, for everyone who's like, well, what if I drink diet soda? Diet soda is, if not worse, just as bad. One thing, for example, is aspartame, which is one of the major causes of neuropathy. Now, yes, you may be getting 0 calories, but again, a lot of that artificial sweeteners sometimes tricks your body into releasing that insulin, and if it's not, it's still a horrible chemical. So if you have to have something sweet, maybe focus on something like a sports drink, but again, be careful with certain sports drinks. Some of those still also have higher drinks. Your number one is always going to be water, tea, or coffee. And again, with coffee, mind the amount of sugar or additives that you put in it, because that can make it just as bad, if not worse. Even using condiments, right? Condiments can be bad, they can be better, they can be worse, right? There's all different versions of it. So even looking at something as simple as ketchup, one of the most commonly used condiments that I would think of all around the world, if not especially in America. If you look at the back of a lot of them, right? Look at what it's made of. Is it actually high fructose corn syrup, instead of using rather like cane sugar or no artificial sweeteners and stuff? So you can even get even 50% less sugar, no added high fructose corn syrup. There's a wide variety of different options. All right, guys, if you are a huge chip fanatic and you're just trying to get away from them because you know it's much better, a great pro tip for me is I've always put on my clients for wheat thins and hummus. You can get like a taco inspired hummus that literally tastes like nachos and chips. And if you want even better, there's even wheat crisps, which is a little bit better than this, and even better again is Triscuits, which has a little bit more fiber and stuff. So there's good, better, best, but any of these options will be way better than just eating chips. Pick up your seasonings, add some flavor to it. A lot of these do have actual healthy properties, such as turmeric, ginger, highly anti-inflammatory properties. So if you have a lot of inflammation issues, again, autoimmune, stuff like that, osteo related, you can get some positivity by picking some of these up and adding them to your flavor. And that way, again, you'll be able to change up a same food item so that you don't feel like you're eating the same thing day in and day out like a dog.